Well, welcome everybody. Today we're going to delve into another one of the amazing areas that we have to look around sustainability and regeneration, looking after our planet. Because we have to sort of think about how we can transform a positive future for businesses and our planet, and it requires a different way of thinking. In this session today, Catherine Schoendorf will share her knowledge and experience on how this can be achieved, and leveraging her experience as a seasoned executive, a strategic advisor, and having a massive, huge, rich history in corporate leadership, transformation, and sustainability, she's going to demonstrate in her own words how businesses and sustainability worlds can actually align. So, well, welcome and thank you for coming. Before we get started, just so that everybody who's attending has got an idea of how we're working, we're going for about 30 minutes. That's what we're aiming for. And depending on the questions we receive, we can obviously adapt that a little bit, but that's what we're trying to stay to for attention and interest levels. I recommend that if you have any questions, please put those in the chat. There's a comments area there, and put those in, and then we can hopefully address those at the end of the session. Absolutely. To get the best out of what Catherine knows and some of the amazing insights she's bringing. So to give you an idea who Catherine is, her work blends a sort of strategic foresight with a passion for innovation and impact. She's about empowering leaders and organizations to thrive sustainably, and with regeneration in mind. She has over 30 years of experience repositioning business models. She now supports boards and leadership teams in navigating a big shift from linear growth to a future fit, regenerative future. And to that end, she's created the Rethinking Your Value journey, where she helps businesses see what is possible and how they can explore a regenerative circularity view can be positive for them and their business, and of course our planet. She's blending her high-level board insight with deep commitment to systems thinking, helping us reshape how value is defined, measured, and delivered. It's important to recognize that also she's a masterclass curator, so she's going to be able to share it and keep us all engaged throughout. I know you are.
You're rising the bar.
I've heard you. It's true. You can. It's amazing. So, but no pressure. Let's see how we go. So today is around the regenerative journey, as you've seen from the podcast webinar message, rethinking value, where we are on the value. So what I'm going to ask you, Catherine, to get us started, when you've been helping major companies reposition their direction and think about how they can work, what do you see as the root of what gets in the way, the resistance that's always there in transformation?
That is the 1 million question, because else, we would be at a way better place. I think that one thing that we need to, and by the way, folks, we just had a little bit of a technical problem here on our side. So I see that people want to join. I can let people join to add to the stage, but please rather use the link which we posted at in the comment section. So just so that so coming back to your question, Alan, I think that let's see what a CEO and what a CEO does. Because it is important to understand where the resistance can come from. First, a CEO, and mostly would it be a family-owned business? Would it be an incumbent company or a corporation? As a CEO, you have to serve many constituents and to please them. So you basically usually what you have to do there won't fit what the other side wants. That is the first thing. Then I would say, depending on the expertise or the background of the person running the business, I think that there are five, what I identified so far as are five types of expertise. You have the sales oriented people, it's all about market, gaining, winning. Then you have more the ones coming from the financial area, and who are like former CFOs, like Indra Nui became, or Tim Cook from Apple became then the CEOs. Then you have the ones more like me, coming from operations, restructuring companies, running complex projects, and who, for whatever reason, land in that position. Then you have the ones coming more from the legal perspective, and which gives me, I mean, there are, four types, let's say 4 to 5 types. um, and then depending on their expertise, they have a special focus, which leads often to blind spots, right? Because someone who is very good in sales maybe doesn't care or doesn't understand necessarily how the details of an operations work. um, or someone like coming from legal is absolutely risk averse, and one of the best cases that we can show when it comes to failure was the Swissair case at that time, run by a CEO who is a lawyer, has a legal background. So I would say sometimes, depending on the industry, it can be good, your expertise, but it can also have some downsides. Then you have the what I call the vertical layer. Is some people don't feel well in the visionary way. This is also my fifth type of person, and then they they feel very good at this level, but don't at all at, for instance, the operational level. Some are feeling very good at the operational level, understand the strategic level, but okay, they are finally getting it, they are accustomed to it. So, depending if you have also on the top to move from a vision, a normative level, to the strategic, to the operations, that can bring an additional layer of complexity. And then we have all the biases where the resistance comes from, usually. And it is the biases are something, how should I say it? If you run a business and you did it really well, like Lisa, technical expertise, she knows her stuff, you do not understand necessarily why, or you don't see the necessity why you should change something. Because why changing? We're talking today about change is the new normal. Well, we still have clients, we still have the production, and we still have, suppliers, or the other way round, suppliers, production, and customers, depending on which geographical region we are. So I think that the resistance comes from, and I've seen a TED talk recently, shared with me by a friend of mine, um, and I've never thought about that. Even if I managed to run all my restructuring businesses or projects to a success, I never understood that resistance comes from the fear of losing, of loss. And I was thinking, yeah, if I'm coming in and I'm saying, okay, what we have done up to now is crap, now we need to change that, I think that we won't be pleased. Myself included. So it is about, there's a lot of resistance because of that fear, because what made us relevant is all sudden fading away. And then we have the last thing, is the power thing. One CEO, always CEO. And I think the larger your responsibility gets, the more difficult it becomes to get out of the sphere of power and money and how it changes you as a person. I mean, one beautiful example is Elon Musk, from the visionary guy. I mean, he was always a little bit shady in his way of getting his deals done, but to where he is today. And one can argue, I mean, I don't care. I would never buy, I mean, a Tesla, because don't want to promote someone who is more talking about himself and puts himself first rather than bringing and working relentlessly to achieve something for the good of others. So hopefully he can walk back where he is now, but let's see. And I gave you some examples. I don't want to say that Elon Musk is a bad person per se, or that I'm one. It is only that to show how difficult it is to convince someone, even if you're right, someone who doesn't see it, the necessity of it.
Hmm.
And I think, did I answer to your question? So it is really a can of worms. I mean, you can, I mean, I'm spending hours and hours of reading, studying, and looking also at myself. What did I do wrong? What could I have done better, um, to move the things forward?
It sounds like there's a very complicated net of things here. It's not one single route. It seems like there's three key things: is that fear, the fear of the change, that what might become, the fact that we've got the experience that has been successful. This is what got me here, and the last part being the biases that have been set up through all of those journeys, which will make it difficult. But then you've got the net gets complicated when you've got all of the other people you're then working with and understanding our
Yes,
own impact on that, with the
yes,
example you used
yes.
with Elon.
And
So
then
yeah,
and then you do have also the stubbornness. I mean, because it is not a bias, but I mean it's an attitude. If you know that what you have done for 15, 20 plus years, and that you have always achieved or come to the results which were important to you, and also, by the way, to the shareholders, why do you want to change? And then let's add another complex on top of that. I mean, we have, of my generation at least, and also the younger ones, we have been fed by the Milton Friedman maxim saying profit maximization. So, meaning you put everything, um, you focus on efficiency, so that your business is so efficient that it brings the highest return to the shareholders. And if we, on top of that, if we have underneath all the time, all our actions are, guided by this premise, by this thing, it's profit maximization, we're basically killing ourselves. It worked maybe for the last 40 years, and backwards, or in the 50s, it worked. Well, I mean, 50s, we still had 20 years until Milton Friedman came out with his sentence and premise. But I mean, we have spent the last 50 years plus in understanding how efficiently we can run businesses. But efficiency doesn't mean that we're doing the right thing.
so given all of that, and obviously we're talking about regenerative thinking, that's again another change. So that's the change that we're trying to root out, or didn't mean to use that in that context, but there's other factors that are playing in there. There's always new words. Some of the things like sustainability is used a lot. That's going a bit out of fashion in some areas. The climate itself is going out of, because of course they've all got their own areas. Circularity is another one of those words which are used quite a lot. When we think about regenerative thinking, how does that differ from sustainability or circularity, and why does it matter?
Excellent question. I think that sustainability per se is a good thing. When we look at, though, sustainability as we practice it since now, I mean, officially, due to regulation here in Europe, um, it is to, I mean, we are steering to minimize harm. We The regulation is moving us towards net zero. Moving us towards net zero doesn't mean that you have to go to net zero. I mean, if you are smart in the business, and it's mostly about, for business owners or running businesses, is to keep the license to operate. So this doesn't mean that if I'm producing, I don't know, if I'm producing glasses, even if I comply with the regulation, the sustainability regulation, and I don't say that it is not important, but it is not sufficient. Reason why I decided to become a circular economist and dedicate my time there, because for me it was really about understanding what could it change. And if you look at, I mean, the circularity, it's about narrow the components that you put in. I mean, a tennis shoe or sports shoe can have more than 60 components. It is about to prolongate the life of the shoe, as an example. It is also to be able to close the loop, to bring it in, back, so that it can be refurbished, or it can be go back to the manufacturing process, or it can also about what is the regeneration. What can we how can we use or avoid extracting additional new resources? And I'm very much focusing, especially on the resource depletion. Reason why my focus is a little bit limited when it comes to the importance of CO2 footprint, which is really important in in sustainability. I'm focusing really on the resources, because, I mean, phosphor, for instance, we won't have it. I mean, we have only reserves, natural reserves, for so many years. But do we even need them? Do we? How should I say? For me, regeneration is comes to it redefines the game even more than circularity, even if regeneration is part of circular economy. It is part of it. But I think that this regeneration really shifts the way we look at resources, how we shall respectfully use them, how can we bring them back again and again in the loop, that we can close the loop. And I must say, the guy who brought me to this was watching a video on YouTube of the late Ray Anderson, the founder and CEO of Interface, the carpet tile company in the US. And when he said, he had already in the 70s some pressure from clients. What are you doing when it comes to the environment? What are you doing? And he always put it aside. And then he read The Ecology of Commerce from Paul Hawken. And he said, it was like a spear going through my chest. And I realized that I was behaving like a burglar, like a thief, just taking the resources which were the earth was giving, our planet was giving me, or us as a company, and I was just using them. And I think that this has been really I must say, the moment, the aha moment, which switched a thinking in my head. So, and this is the reason why and regeneration, not because I'm thinking about that, or because I think that it is important, but when you look at the research which is done, you have many, many articles per month which are published in academia on the circular economy. But since 1.5 years, you see a surge of the topic of regeneration because we start to understand that it is maybe one of the items because of the mindset shift, which can have an even bigger impact in the circular economy.
Right. So it's looking at how we can reuse it in multiple ways, more than just the standard circular of.
Yes.
Um, so when I think
Infinitely.
of so so when I think of Interface, if anybody on who's listening hasn't heard of Interface carpets, do look them up. Their case studies are around, and they're trying to use everything, changing their whole business models, if I understand
Oh,
correctly, in the way
it,
that they sell and even rent their products, so that it's guaranteed to go around and have minimal impact, and
but
it saves them money, and this is a good business model.
and but I mean the French company carpet tile company Target has started doing this journey already in the 60s. So only that and I think that's what Ray Anderson did wonderfully. He really in his books that he published, his two books, is he really showed with numbers, with figures, how it impacted his business. The interface came really to the circular economy through the Ellen MacArthur Foundation only a few years back, but they have thought about recycling a lot. But today, it is interesting in the circular economy field. We're saying no, 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 no. It's not about recycling. It's about avoiding first to extract additional resources and then how to see how we can remanufacture, refurbish as much as possible, because the recycling effect can have a very perverted side, which is the rebound effect. Think about plastic in oceans, bottles, plastic bottles. Did you know, or how many of us know, that there is a producer in China who produces empty plastic bottles so that we here in the Western world, we can say, our backpack, whatever, is out or is made by plastic bottles. So it can sometimes have a quite, um, how should I say, we have to learn where the limits are. We have to learn when we have a good intention for the planet, for the environment. If we go maybe left, it might be not the right thing. If we go to the right, it might also not be the right thing, because there's all this cascade, the butterfly effect. How how are we really contributing to do really something good? And I think that we are all in a learning phase. So I think that I always love to go back to the roots of cradle to cradle, a movement, also Stahel, Paul Hawken, about regeneration, because it's really about trying to understand, to take, what the examples of the nature, and to see how little impact we can really leave behind us. And that is not often very easy, although the traditions, would it be in building, would it be, I mean, real old centuries, millenniums, sometimes traditions show us that some of our ancestors were way smarter than we are today.
That's so true. And just thinking about that, you've got, as you mentioned, there's the other carpet company, the French company. I've forgotten the name you mentioned, but the fact that they've been doing it a long time, and
Mhm.
that interface have only recently, even though I believe it's since the 80s, I believe, but it might be a bit later than that.
Yeah,
They've been doing
90s. Yeah,
no.
it was in the start of the late 80s, start of the 90s. There, his people pushed, his team pushed him to speak, to prepare a speech, and this was the reason why he read Paul Harkin's book, The Ecology of Commerce, and which left an undeniable mark in his life and changed the trajectory of his life and how he was running a business. And what is fascinating is I have seen a picture of him before the speech and a picture after. I mean, many pictures and videos after. The fire in his eyes is a complete different one.
Hmm.
And I think if you as a CEO you think about a legacy, is it running only after the numbers, or do you want to leave um, a positive mark?
I think that's a really good point. Before, just to close that one off before we move on to the last topic, the last question because of time. But you used earlier Steve Jobs, for example. You know, that was his passion. The fire was in him, even though when he was presenting the iPod, oh, this one doesn't work. This one doesn't work. But it didn't matter. The passion was there because he believed in it. And I think you've showed that there's cases out there, and there's probably a lot more where work like this has been done, but they're the unsung heroes, the unknown experience, and yet they can inspire people to get their eyes lit up and that fire in their belly. What does that say about what businesses could be doing? So I guess that's a good segue to the question about the boards and executives. And obviously there's a lot of talk about, yes, we want to do it, and a lot of positives. What are the roles of those boards playing, or going both ways, maybe fighting for, or sometimes surreptitiously sort of blocking the actual strategies, which, as we've just talked about, can be so effective at being good for business and good for the planet?
Well, the boards are playing a very important role, and they have also to think about, the risk that it could bring to the table or to the business. So it is, if you want, you have almost like the CEO wanting to run forward, the opportunistic approach. I mean, it is just to give an image. And then you have the board basically trying to stop or hold the horse so that we can think about it. Is it really, what are the implications? What is the impact? Is that the right approach? Yes or no? And depending on the type of industry, if it is a very regulated one, which I have been most of my years in corporate, or is it more an entrepreneurial one or non-regulated one, the attitude of the board will be different. I think that if the boards are more and more changing and bringing fresh blood. And when I say fresh blood, I mean also new expertise, like platform thinking. If you want to go in circular economy, you want to work in develop ecosystems and innovation, it doesn't work without platforms. So these are new technologies. Um, if you They're also bringing some more expertise in sustainability. The thing is that ESG is at the board level, and especially when it comes to where to invest, it is more considered as a governance instrument. Will we be compliant with the regulations? Can we keep the license to operate? And often it kinds of puts an umbrella over the ability to spark innovation and to go way farther. I mean, but I think that depending on on the relationship that the CEO develops with the board, some extraordinary things can happen. But it's a long lasting game. Like, I mean, circular economy, definitely. Um, Sustainability also. And I think the most important thing is that we try to move away from only the short term thinking, but also to have additionally the long term thinking. And I think that here in Europe, at least, if we can step away of the Chicago booth um, way of looking at things, or Harvard um, things, or perspective of life, which is basically not so much rooted in the environmental tissue or the societal tissue, which in Europe we tended to have more. Let's look at the Nordic countries, but let's look also at in Switzerland, but also family-owned businesses. They're more, they are more embedded in the societal tissue fabric. No, tissue is not the right word. This is French. A fabric. It is really important. But I mean, the boards are definitely something. If you have very risk averted people sitting on the board, the majority, it's almost impossible to move anything.
Yeah, that sort of reminds me of what you shared earlier about the five types of people, and if the board is potentially too stable, is this what you're saying? That if the board is very stuck in
Traditional.
their ways and traditional, then they're going to be the constraint rather than the enabler.
But see, I mean, I was talking about platforms. Platforms, or people being in the platforms, can be even more extractive, or become more extractive than traditional linear businesses, because they're looking on how can I scale my flywheel effect and my network effects. So depending if you are only sales, pushing forward and optimizing the efficiency to the end game, we are going to end in an end game, definitely, because it is not about, it is how can we be, or Peter Drucker said it, it's not only about doing things right, it says also about having the balance with doing things right, efficiently, but also doing them, I mean, doing the right things. And it ties back also to one question: what do we want to leave behind us as a company? And where can we, our expertise, where can we contribute? And I can tell you, if you start thinking about this question, there are so many opportunities right now for companies to prepare the next chapters of life of their companies, their businesses, because then you are not only thinking about your company, but maybe the industry, and taking an active role there and a lead here. I mean, also in the thinking, the perspective, the mindset. But also, if you look at, we can change everything right now. I mean, Rita McGrath, Professor Rita McGrath, is talking since 2013, when she said it is the end of competitive advantage. And in her book, Seeing Around the Corner, which she published in 2018, she was saying we don't have industries anymore. We will have arenas where we are basically creating things in a completely different way. And I think that this is a type of thinking that we need, but also for us to think, what value, type of value are we producing? Because we are putting a lot of emphasis on value creation. We want to create value. But how many of us, including of myself in the past, did we really create value, or did we extract and it destroyed value?
This has raised the question for me, and it's one of the things I think about when I working with things like OKRs, objectives and key results. Like, what is the value in a more objective way? And I think that, or personal values, is that what is valuable to me as a person? What is value? And looking at value as a more generic phrase about everything we mean, what we are delivering, what we give, what we take. And that's a powerful sort of idea of what is that value. So just to bring us towards a close, I'd love to. That's a really good, thoughtful question. I'm wondering, do you have any one question that you think would be most powerful for leaders to ask themselves when they're considering going on this journey?
Well, I think that we need to all consider to go on that journey, because in the end, like with natural resources, at one point in time there won't be, I mean, some of the material anymore. um, um, but good question, one question I would say, or let me share with what is my thought. I'm asking myself often, what future must we be necessary in? Because there are things like, how shall I say, technology has brought, I mean, technology in the wider sense of the word, has brought us a lot of comfort. But is the comfort that we have, this luxurious comfort, is it something that is really necessary? And does it not take us away from what we meant to be here, or the contribution why we're here? So this goes in a very philosophical, spiritual maybe question, but I'm thinking often, I mean, maybe it has to do with me getting older and older, but is it something that is really necessary? Or where could when I think of buying something or wanting to do something, um, how can I maybe rather contribute for others to become better, as in the way of doing good, in a spontaneous way? And I think that we all would agree then that, it is not because we earn a lot of money that we're necessarily happy, but it is how the quality of the life with others and our surrounding, would it be now animals, nature, other people, whatever it is for the person, but how we can get in a better connection with them. So if we can continue to create businesses that can allow others also to blossom, I think personally, the better it is. At least it is the way I want to end my life, and to say, okay, I contributed to that and I did my thing to reach that. But it might not be, the goal that some people want to achieve.
Yeah, fair enough. It's a very thoughtful topic there. It's what your own version, your own personal one, is to leave the world in a better place than you came, is sort of one way you could look at what you shared. The question is, what do other people want to leave the world with? I think that's the other part of what my interpretation of what you're saying. Other people might have a different journey, but what is it that they want to be leaving the world with, having left behind? Yeah.
Absolutely. And we are all on a different path. I mean, our our respective paths, life path, are totally different. And I think it is, and we will see. I mean, will we achieve it? Yes and no. But if we can't achieve to save our planet, well, I mean, independently of if you have a bunker of how many millions or billions to for you to survive a few months, come on. I mean, we are all in the same boat, and we are either going to all perish, I mean, in the same boat, maybe not at the same time, or we can make it happen that we continue to sail and to navigate on our planet.
Very true. I could keep going philosophically on that path for a long time, but I think I'll bring us to a close. This has been wonderful. Obviously, you've shared so much insight and so many ideas, inspired us and thought made us think. Where can people actually reach out to you?
On LinkedIn.
Yep.
That is the easiest thing. I mean, you can also go on my YouTube channel, but I mean, LinkedIn is the best thing. And I developed there an assessment tool, because I think that, it's not about talking about the CEO is doing something wrong, or, is this person or whatever. It is about understanding the philosophy of the company, and where the levers of changes or possibility of opportunities are. And I created there, developed I worked on it for quite some time, an assessment that you can, I mean, if you ask for it, you can also access it and have it. And just it takes 10 to 15 minutes, but at least to see, okay, what type of mentality, what type of persona is the business run, and where can there be some levers, to bring some change. And the more are participating, the better it is, because then I have also more data, and to think, okay, how can I solve the $1 million question,
Oh, yeah. Remind me of this. Douglas Adams wrote a book, and yeah, the question, the whole robot and machine was designed just to find the answer to the big question. It was just 42. But so
Yes,
simple. Anyway, novels aside, it has been an absolute pleasure. Thank you very much, Catherine.
my pleasure too.
It's wonderful to hear your observations, your insights, and very thought-provoking. But you provided, as I did produce assume at the beginning, very engagingly. It's been wonderful to add that you bring the humor into the conversation, because it's a deep topic, and it's actually an amazing skill to do that. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much. And talk to you soon. Thank you.